What a race that was in the wrong way. Dover, 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 Dover. After the first Dover race this season, I was really not looking forward to this one, especially since it's a chase race, and the one earlier in the season was not good at all. And in fact, I think the one earlier in the season was slightly better than the one that we just had today. That's saying something. What was it? The Drydene 400 at Dover was not even mediocre, worse than mediocre. I am so an update on the whole experiment with the 2011-2019 thing. I am currently on the 2011 Quaker State 400. I enjoyed that race more than what I just saw here today, and that race that I'm watching, the Quaker State 400, is horrible. And this one was worse than that. This race had nothing. Um, it had 14 lead changes. NASCAR has not released the loop data yet. This is the longest it's taken to release loop data since I think like earlier in the season. So either they're trying to adjust some numbers to make it look better, or they've added up and it doesn't seem right because there's probably only like 1,000 green flag passes or something. No, probably higher than that because once again there were green flag pit stops because no one could crash because the cars were planted to the ground because of 8-inch spoilers. Basically, NASCAR is just probably looking at like, oh, what happened? Or it'll come out higher than what it should be because we had green flag pit stops like 3 times, and they'll be like, look at green flag passes were up. We like what we're seeing. Um, yeah, I just cannot believe that after this race and after what all these drivers are saying, I want to keep this short because it was horrible and I don't want to spend much time on it. Um, After what drivers are saying, after what they saw, I cannot believe that they can say that the 2020 package will have 0 changes. I get that because it is the last year of the Gen 6. They don't want teams spending money. But how hard can it be to just get different size spoilers for different racetracks? I will condone different size spoilers for Kansas, for Las Vegas, and even for Texas and Kentucky. Those 8-inch spoilers are fine there. Low downforce everywhere else, please, dear God. Dover, Richmond, Martinsville, Bristol. Well, not so much Bristol because Bristol's all right no matter what package because of the PJ1. But Dover, Richmond, Martinsville, Dover. I said Dover twice because I just want them to change it so much. Loudon and the road courses and all these different tracks. They don't use high downforce. They need low downforce, and we saw it here at Dover. It does not work. The reason why these cars are in the corner for so long, it's such long sweeping corners, and the fact of the matter is this: you can't really move up with this package. You're already running basically wide open on the bottom. You're not making much more time on top. You can use it for a few laps, but even Alex Bowman used it for a few laps, but then it wasn't really working much. Use it to pass someone, but then you're riding around the bottom most of the time because that is certainly faster. You just use the high line because the driver in front of you is slower. And we saw that throughout the race. Denny Hamlin led like 215 laps or something, and he faded back and never got back up to the front. The reason being was he was out front, but he was not the best car out front. He was just out front, and no one could get by him. Harvick looked faster. Harvick would stay within a second of him when Harvick was in second, and Harvick could not get by him. Finally, some lap traffic gave Truex the lead and the stage win, and Kyle Larson won the race. Thankfully, we had a favorable outcome at the end of this race. This was the closest margin of victory since the Bristol night race, which was, I think, half a second. This one was a second and a half. So the past 5 races before this one, we had not had a finish under 2.63 seconds. So that's saying where the season has gone so far. It's just NBC last year got like, they're like, oh, we got the best part of the season, but now literally NBC has had like 6 mediocre or horrible races. I'll give the Roval a pass because the Roval was good. It was just officiated horribly. The racing was all right, but the Roval was officiated horribly, and even Darlington was decent, but it wasn't great. So that was something. Not much more to say. The playoffs took a big hit. Joey Logano, before the race even started, had an rear axle and rear gear issue. basically what Jimmy Johnson had last year in this exact same race. He had to go to the garage before the race even started. He battled laps down, made some enemies from like Hamlin and Truex and Larson and them, and he ended up at the back. He's actually tied right now on the bubble. He's outside right now, tied on the bubble. Clint Boyer had a bad day all day long. He never really was top 10, cracked the top 10 at the end, but he's currently, I think, 4 points out. Chase Elliott had bad luck as well. He was running inside the top 10 when his engine blew up, and he ended up finishing last, and he is now 7 points below. And all those drivers are close on the cutoff because Ryan Blaney, who was running up inside the top 10, back half of the top 10, he had brake issues, which put him out of the race, and it put Blaney 22 points below. Byron and Logano right now tied. I think Bowman is 17 up, Brad is 20 up, and then fifth on up are 40 points or more up. Kyle Larson obviously into the round of 8 for the first time in his career. With his win here today at Dover. It is official. Tech just passed. Larson is the winner officially. After the race, some drivers gave some sound bites. Boyer saying it was virtually impossible to pass. It was literally impossible to pass. Kyle Busch, I assume, said something like that. I'm sure Martin Truex Jr. said that as well. Kevin Harvick may have made a slight comment towards that. And the one I'm really surprised about, Jimmy Johnson. You know that you have messed up when you got Jimmy Johnson talking against it, because Jimmy has been one for, like, all throughout this year, drivers have complained. Kyle Busch, Clint Boyer, and, Kevin Harvick have kind of complained all throughout the year about, dirty air and not enough horsepower, whatever, right? And Jimmy Johnson has not said anything, because that's normally how Jimmy Johnson is. So when you get Jimmy Johnson to say something against what you're doing, you know that you have probably messed up. And I cannot believe that after hearing all this stuff, after hearing stuff from a 7-time champion about how, oh, I remember a time when the faster car could pass, today was not that day. It's kind of frustrating, to see the words 2020 package to be the exact same as the 2019 package. I get why they're doing it, but it's going to be another half year of horrible racing, a fourth decent racing and a fourth great racing. We head to Talladega next. That's NASCAR saving grace. With their new package. Fun fact too, right? So Talladega and Daytona have gotten better. Why have they gotten better? Well, those two tracks, right? They're drafting. It really has nothing to do with the elimination of the restrictor plate. They just put a smaller restrictor plate on, or bigger restrictor plate on, I guess. So basically, what they did was they upped the spoiler size on the restrictor plate. So what they were going to do, right, was they said, we're going to go into Daytona and Talladega with this new package, right, and we're going to keep it the same. It's going to be 8-inch spoilers everywhere, and we're going to use the 550 horsepower here. It upped the horsepower by like 100 or so from what it was with the restrictor plate. They ended up going too fast in practices at Talladega, so they put the wicker bill on the spoiler of the car to slow it down. So what that did was add a huge hole in the air, because the wicker bill going on top of the spoiler adds more of a kind of draft throughout and makes a bigger hole in the air for the drivers to suck up on. So it creates bigger runs. It's nothing to do with the taper spacer. What the taper spacer did, though, was give them more speed. In fact, it's actually funny how two of the tracks that they improved this year were Daytona and Talladega, and they increased horsepower and gave them more speed. That's pretty funny. At those tracks, they definitely improved it, but I don't really necessarily think it's part of the package. I think you could use, the 2018 package with just a gigantic spoiler on plate tracks, and it would be fine. The reason being, if you have a gigantic spoiler, you obviously have more downforce, which in turn leads to a better handling race car, which in turn means more big moves can be made in the pack and whatnot. So hopefully Talladega is NASCAR saving grace after a lackluster what has been summer months. I mean, we really haven't had a great summer. And then we move on to Kansas, which earlier in the season was pretty darn good. Maybe the one racetrack that has marginally or has drastically improved because of the package. So maybe it will be just as good here in the playoffs. And then we go to Martinsville, which was really hurt earlier in the season. We'll see if a tire change helps that. Texas, which I think was helped technically, even though they kind of were trained. It was like a train. No one could really pass. And then we got Phoenix, and obviously Homestead. So this race kind of made me sad, and I was just not in the mood to see a bad race, and we saw a bad race, and it's a shame because Dover kind of joined some of the tracks where it's like, oh, these tracks just suck. While Dover has never really been a great racetrack, at least it would have some good races. With this package, you're never going to get a good race out of Dover. You're just never going to get a good race. Um, so here's hoping that they listen and make some changes for 2020. I don't really know if they will, because obviously cost and whatever. But yeah, I think I've rambled on too much. That was Dover. That was Dover. Wasn't great. I would say second worst race of the season behind the first Pocono race. And I was at the first Pocono race, so it should have been better, and it wasn't. Yeah. Also, it's funny seeing some of the NASCAR media members like Kyle Petty and them trying to defend the package when people are like, well, you can't really pass, it sucks. And then Kyle Petty said something like, oh, yeah, Martin Truex Jr. went from 6th to 2nd and never passed any cars. Yeah, wow, one car passed. Can you name all the other cars that passed during the race? Because I bet you really can't, because they didn't. Denny Hamlin was top 5 all day long, never fell outside the top 5 because it started front. Kyle Larson, same there, never fell outside the top 5. Jimmy Johnson was around 6th to 8th all day long because, once again, you can't pass. Kyle Busch, he was inside the top 10, fell back because of a speeding penalty, barely came back up inside the top 10. Until more people got penalties. So yeah, bad race, horrible race, terrible race. Package does not belong at Dover. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys for the next video.